Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 205 with Yasmine Salem Hamdan. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy Podcast. My name is Tess. I am the host, founder of Wander Wealthy, and business coach for all you money coaches, wealth coaches, financial coaches, whatever you want to call yourself out there in the world. You are here. We have an exciting episode for you today because it's not just me this time. I am being joined by Yasmine Salem Hamdan. She is a business and brand protection lawyer and CEO of the online digital e-commerce store Coaches and Company. Yasmine does so much work and she's doing it all for us coaches out there in the world. She really has built her business. She's built two businesses. And through her businesses, she supports online coaches and entrepreneurs around the world to help them protect their powerful brands, avoid expensive legal problems, and to create peace of mind and confidence in their businesses. And I can tell you, when I finally hired my attorney to help me draft my contracts and get all my legal stuff in order, that really did help me feel so much more confident in how I showed up and just felt like, okay, I'm legitimate now. I have my business. And so Yasmine is joining us to answer some of many of your burning questions around, especially I think one-on-one contracts might be a thing that you're likely dealing with today. So we talk about the importance of one-on-one contracts, some things that you can definitely include in your one-on-one contracts with your clients. We also talk about other mistakes that she sees online coaches making when it comes to protecting themselves legally or not protecting themselves legally, and not because they're actively trying not to do it, but they might just not know. And we also talk about the importance of brand protection by way of trademarks and copyrights. And she shares with us, what those actually mean and what the steps are that we can take to get protected. So there's so much value packed into this episode. We had such a great time connecting, and I hope you enjoy it just as much as I did and you learn so much from it. Here is episode 205 with Yasmine Salem Hamdan. Yasmine, welcome to the Wander Wealthy Podcast. It is such a treat to have someone on the show who can talk so openly about the legal stuff. So welcome to the show.
Hi, Tess. Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome and thank you for having me.
So we, of course, want to know all about you and, of course, your expertise, but we'll just start off by asking you to share your story. How did you get to where you are today, and what is it that you do, and who do you work with?
Yeah, so I am a business and brand protection lawyer. I'm based in Dallas, Texas. I have a law firm, YSH Law, where we support our clients with brand protection services, namely trademark protection, registration, clearance, enforcement, all of those things around your brand. So really helping our clients protect their brands in terms of the name of their company, the name of their podcast, for example, the name of their program or signature methodology or framework. All of these are assets of your business. And so we support our clients in creating strong assets and then protecting those assets. I'm also the founder and CEO of Coaches and Company. So coachesandcompany.com. It is a digital marketplace that provides access to quality lawyer-created legal resources that are designed with online businesses in mind. And so think, contract templates, courses, all about how to, protect your trademarks for one. But two, we've got, and this is our most popular products, are instantly downloadable, super easy to customize contract templates. So one-on-one coaching contract agreements, group coaching contract agreements, terms and conditions for your courses, for your digital products. A contract if you're having a VIP day with a client, independent contractor agreements. And so if you're hiring for your team, and then we've also got agreements for service providers. And so those that are podcast producers, for example, or VAs, OBMs, social media managers, things like that. So, yeah, that's what I do. And it's, our mission really is to provide access to quality legal resources, because what I found in working with my clients and being involved in the online space and specifically in the coaching community, which is such a large community, but it's also such a small community. So you really,
Yeah.
it's funny in that way. But what I found is what a lot of online coaches do is they, do the quick Google search, pull the template off the internet, a free template that they find God knows where. They pop
Mm-hmm.
into a Facebook group, hey, does anybody have a group coaching contract? Or, hey, does anybody have terms and conditions for their website or privacy policy? And you just don't know where those come from. You don't know, the integrity of those agreements. And we just can't cut corners when it comes to the legal side of our business. So, and I recognize most people at the start, or, in certain seasons of their businesses, they're not necessarily in a season of business where they can invest $5,000 plus in working with a lawyer one-on-one. If you are
Right.
able to, it's a great investment. It's a sound investment. But, if you're not able to, I do not believe that that means that you should remain unprotected or, you know, just continue cutting corners when it comes to the legal stuff. And that's why we've created coachesandcompany.com, is to provide access to those lawyer created contract templates and resources, and really close the gap, and provide that access to everybody.
I love it. And I think that is so important. And we're going to get into some mistakes that we see online coaches make and just some things to be considering, especially when you're just starting out, or maybe if you're a little bit more seasoned. But before we dive in, I'd love to know, I mean, just personally, you run two businesses, and we were just sharing our age. We are the same age.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of entrepreneurs deal with is, and I don't know if it's just service based, but I think service based it comes up a lot for people who are like offering a service, because you are so attached to the end result in some ways,
Oh,
is
yeah.
dealing with like, who am I, or how could I, put myself out there in this way and show up and say, hey, I can be your attorney. Or I can make this business. So how have you dealt with any kind of, we call them thought gremlins, but like obviously like limiting beliefs or imposter syndrome in that way, or have you experienced it?
Yeah. So for me, of course, I feel like everybody experiences imposter syndrome. But for me, what I do when my mind goes to that place, or energetically, I feel like I'm entering that space, I really just remind myself of who the hell I am. I'm like,
Mm,
okay, so you're doing this, so how could you be an imposter if you are walking in your purpose, if you are putting your best foot forward and really striving to serve your client, serve your community, your audience, show up. If you are consistently showing up and embodying who it is you are, how can you be an imposter? You can't. I believe it's impossible. And so that's not to say, you're wrong for feeling those feelings, or you're wrong for letting your mind go there. Again, we're all human. And I think as entrepreneurs, as individuals that are putting ourselves out there and on a very intimate level, like, right, it's still professional, but we're working very closely with with other business owners, with our clients. And so it can be very easy to go there, but we have
mm-hmm.
just got to, and it takes practice. It's like a muscle,
Yeah.
over time, it'll get easier and easier for you to pull yourself out of that uh, mental headspace.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, and I think it's important to hear it from the perspective of people who have like you're an attorney. A lot of the people who are becoming financial coaches, like we're dealing with some really serious stuff, right? And I would say like every business deals with serious stuff, but
Yeah.
like you don't want to F it up.
Yep. No, legal, financial, health and wellness, like all of it is very close and important. I mean, here we're dealing with people's livelihoods, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But I love it. Like, remember who the hell you are. And you're
Yeah.
doing this to help. And so at the end of the day, your intentions are pure. And I think that's important.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, thank you for going there with me. I'd love
Yeah.
to pivot slightly since the Wander Wealthy podcast originated as a money podcast. I just always love to hear from other fellow entrepreneurs their experience with money and first kind of digging into your story with money. So just curious, like, what was money like for you growing up? What would you say your money story was for you, and how has that impacted your life today as a business owner?
Yeah, so I have spent a lot of time reflecting on this, as I think most people do in their journey, right? It's a part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
So for me growing up, I was one of six sisters. So we had no brothers. We were six kids, same parents. We were all living in the same house, and I was the oldest. And so it was really interesting for me because my parents, I guess they shielded us from the concept of money. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't really, it wasn't something we really talked about. We wouldn't hear them fighting or anything like that about money. They wouldn't really talk about the bills or anything like that. But as I got a little bit older, maybe 10, 11, 12, if I asked for something or, if we wanted to do something, my mom's answer was always, we're on a budget. And so that was just something I always heard, like, we're on a
Yeah.
budget, we're on a budget. We can't do this. We're on a budget. And so I was just like, okay, not totally sure what a budget is, but clearly it's a reason for me to not get what I want.
Yeah.
And so, as I got older, when I was in high school, I got my first job, and, that was really my first opportunity at generating my own income. So I did that. I started college. While I was in college, I left my job. So, I was relying on my parents once again for income. And then after college, I took a year off. During that time, my husband and I, we were married during that time. So he's my
Mm-hmm.
fiance. When I graduated college, we took a year off and we're married. And then I started law school a little bit after that. And so I was not working throughout that entire period of time. And so looking back, I'm kind of like, okay, I was in a very privileged position where I was not necessarily needing to, work a job throughout college, throughout law school, because I had a support system, right? I
Mm-hmm.
was, like I said, I was in a very privileged position to where I wasn't having to pay my own bills. I wasn't needing to do all of that. And then I graduated law school and I'm like, okay, I need to get a job now. Well, okay. I had jobs in that year. I had two jobs. And so I generated income during that time, but there wasn't any expectation of me, I guess you could
Mm-hmm.
say. We didn't have very high expenses. We weren't supporting other family members, or, we didn't have children. And so when I graduated law school and I got my first job, I got that job in my plan was that I was going to be collecting that capital to put towards my law firm. Right. So I knew I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to start my first business. So really my first financial goal was, okay, let me generate some revenue or generate some income through this job as a means to starting my first business. And so, it's whenever I started my business, that was really when all of my money stuff started to come up. I want to
Okay.
say, it was really easy for me. I didn't have a problem throughout school or throughout college because I never really had to face it. I was never
Mm-hmm.
really in a position where I had to face my money stuff. And then when I started my business, it really became, okay, so I have money to do stuff with now, and, stuff in my personal life, yes, but specifically within my business, how am I going to handle this? And my dad was also an entrepreneur. He was a business owner. And when I would talk to him, he had his own money stuff, and, he was there's really no need. Money doesn't need to just sit. You have to keep money moving. You've got to keep,
Mm.
you've got to reinvest in your business. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. And then my mom was really you've got to save for the rain. So they were kind of very opposite. in that
Yeah.
way. And I want to say I'm in the middle. I do invest in my business. I do keep money circulating in my life. I do believe it's got to come and go. It likes to move, right?
Right.
At the same time, I do value stability and security. And so I maintain a healthy savings account, a savings account within the business as well,
Mm-hmm.
for us to rely on when needed. And so, I think the way I look at money is it is an energetic force. And so it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't like to sit still. It does like to move and flow and come and go. But it is truly, in my opinion, an exchange of value. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we want money, right? We want money to come to us. We want it to be attracted to us, but it cannot do that. And we can't expect others to come to us and want to give us, their money in exchange for nothing. You've got to come with the
Right.
value. You've got to come ready to serve your value and provide value and be a source of value if you want for that exchange to take place.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so interesting. And it's really, it really does, that moment when you start to either decide to become a business owner and you start building it on the side, or you go full on into it. It really takes a shift in the way that you think about money. And a lot of times, what feels, especially to those who are naturally frugal, like probably a lot of people listening to this podcast,
Yeah.
it feels counterintuitive to invest in something and then with the risk of it might not come back to you. But like you said, money appreciates that movement. And
Mhm.
I think it also, the idea of other people paying you, like how can you do that for yourself as well? How can you pay others so that you can
Mhm.
make money in return?
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Well, let's talk about contracts and trademarks and all of that good stuff
All the
now.
legal stuff.
Yes. So I guess we'll start off with, you had mentioned some off of the top of this episode, but what are some big mistakes that you see online coaches making? Or maybe not, maybe they're not doing something and that is a mistake in and of itself when it comes to wanting to run a legally protected business, or wanting to run a business, but maybe it is or is not legally protected.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing is having a contract in place. Like this is the basics, like step
Mhm.
one, if you intend to put an offer out there and begin a client relationship with your client or clients, you have to have a written agreement that states what the scope of that relationships look like,
Mhm.
what the scope of the services provided are going to be, what all of your different policies are, and what your boundaries are. That is all stated in the contractual agreement. And so the big mistake I see a lot of people making, again, is that they will just, get it from a friend, get it from a Facebook group, get it from, I know a lot of coaches will provide their contract or a contract to their clients.
Mhm.
That might be educators or coaches. And I'm just like, so how many edits and modifications and like phases has this gone through? We don't know. We don't
Right.
know what changes have been made to this. We don't know what is missing. We don't know what has been added. We don't know who even created it originally. And so a lot of people are out here using this Frankenstein contract that I'm like, so does it really even protect you? We don't know, because
Mhm.
you don't know where this came from. So that truly is the foundation of a service-based business. Is what is, I like to think of it as kind of like the constitution of your business. It's like
Yeah.
you get to set the law of the land, and the land is your
Right.
business, right? And so the way to do that is via a written agreement. And if you don't set it, somebody else will. And who that is, it might be the client, it might be a court of law, if it ever gets to that point. But you have the opportunity to do it. So you're either going to do it or you don't. And if you don't, somebody else will.
Yeah, I love that. And I think contracts, like, of course, for legal purposes, they're important, but I think they're also such a powerful way to set your own boundaries as a coach.
Yes. Yes, Tess. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm preaching this day and night is this is your opportunity to do that, and that is how a contract does not only protect you as the business owner, it protects the client, it protects the relationship. Okay.
Mhm.
And then it puts you in a position to de escalate any situation and lessen the likelihood of a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. Because if something happens, you're able to go back to the contract and say, well, this is, the policy, or this is what we agreed to. Versus if you don't have that in writing, they never agreed to it, it really puts you at a standstill in the event of a
Mhm.
dispute or a misunderstanding.
Mhm. And what would you say are some key things, like from a boundaries perspective? Like, what are some key things you can include in the contract to protect yourself as a coach and like even protect how often you're working or how long you have to get back to your client or whatever that looks like? Do you have some off the top of your head?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of communication, you definitely want to state in your contract, what are your office hours and how
Mhm.
quick is your response turnaround time. So, if it's, you can contact us between the hours of, 9 and 5, Monday through Friday, or whatever your hours are, and then we provide a 24 to 48 hour response to all emails. You also want to let them know how they can contact you. If you are a strictly email kind of person, that communication is via email only, not through social media DMs, and not through any type of voice messaging software, then you want to make sure you're communicating that. If you do provide Voxer access or Telegram or Slack communication, then you want to include that as well, because that's a part of your boundaries too, right? Is if you are
Yeah.
like, I'm not accessible via Voxer, or that's not included at this level of um, membership or service, or depending on what kind of offer in your product suite they are purchasing, you want to make sure that that's clearly communicated. And that way you can, have those solid boundaries in place.
Yeah. I think the other biggest piece that people get really concerned with and, really think or know like I need to have a contract in place for this is the payment and like
Mhm.
refund, like payments and refund and being able to collect on that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely. So as far as payment goes, you want to make sure that you are including language around the terms of payment. And so if it is a pay in full at the beginning of the service, or the beginning of, the relationship, they're entering that container, whether it's one-on-one or group or whatever it might be. If it is on a payment plan, you want to make sure that it's clear that this is a payment plan that must be paid regardless of whether or not you decide to leave the program, right? So this isn't a subscription membership where you can just cancel it this month and the rest of the months are not to be paid. This
Mhm.
is even if you decide to leave the program, or because anything can happen, right? They might
Right.
decide, actually after a couple of months in this isn't the right fit for me. Okay, cool. We're not going to force you to stay, but you still agreed to the payment of the full amount. You want to also communicate what your refund policy is. If there is a refund, if there's a refund policy, if you are open to providing refunds, what are the terms of that? If this is a strictly no refund policy, once services begin or once you enter the program, you want to communicate that. And then something that I call the dark side of online business are chargebacks and payment disputes.
Mm.
Unfortunately, it happens. And I like to think of it, that and refund requests are a rite of passage for coaches and online business owners. And so what happens whenever a chargeback or a dispute takes place is, instead of going to you and saying, hey, I would like a refund for X, Y, and Z, they instead just go directly to their bank and they dispute the charge on their card or their bank account. And so what happens then is an investigation is opened and you have the opportunity to present evidence in
Mhm.
favor of, they're not entitled to a refund, or this was not fraudulent, or they received services, or depending on what it is, what the basis of their dispute is.
Mhm.
And so you want to be able to provide the receipts, right? And so not just an actual receipt, but also, here is what they agreed to. And so in all of our contract templates for services on coachesandcompany.com, we include a clause on chargebacks and disputes, and actually have a clause that has the client agreeing to not go that route. Right. And if they do accidentally go that route, because sometimes people will see it on their statement and they might not recognize it for whatever reason, and they'll dispute it.
Right.
And so we want to make sure that if that does happen, they're agreeing to withdraw that dispute. And if you don't have a contract in place that states what your refund policy is, what the scope of the services are, if you don't have a clause in your contract about chargebacks or payment disputes, you're probably not going to win that investigation. They're not going to rule in your favor because they really don't have any reason to.
Right. And taking this just kind of one step further, I know that there's contracts, and I'm guessing those are mainly for like one-to-one services, but then there's also terms of purchase. Can you share the difference between those two and when you would use one versus the other?
Yeah. So there terms of purchase or terms and conditions or terms of use, that's also a contract. It's also binding. It is an agreement. What the difference is whenever you have, let's say, a digital product or a digital course or templates or anything else that can be downloaded, it doesn't require, it's not an ongoing relationship. You're not providing a service, you're not working, they're not entering into a coaching container of yours. You don't necessarily need to have a one-on-one discussion with each purchase, right? With each person that's purchasing. And so what you want to do is have, at checkout, when they're purchasing your digital product or your digital course, you want to make sure that there is a box for them to check where they can click to view your terms and conditions for that product or the terms of purchase. And it has pretty much the same kind of clauses. It's all about the purchase of what is they're purchasing, what they receive, what they have access to, what the refund policy is for this product or course, what the, chargeback and dispute clause is. That's also, you want to make sure that's included in there. As far as your copyright ownership, you want to make sure that it's clear that by purchasing this, you're not getting a license to use it in your business, and you don't have, you're not going to have ownership of it. You're just receiving a license to use it as far as being, it being of use to you in your business, right? So you can't reproduce it if you're purchasing this course or this digital product, which is a whole other conversation, right?
Yes.
As far as, but we can talk about that if we have time. But it's also a contract, the terms of use and the terms of purchase. You do want to make sure that there is a box for them to check at checkout, though, because that's essentially their signature.
Okay, good to know. And then you had mentioned the kind of like the terms and conditions and privacy policy and that stuff as templates that you have on your website. So can you tell us just a little bit about what those are and why those are important?
Yeah, absolutely. So the terms and conditions and the privacy policy, terms and conditions on your website, it's like the law of your website, of your business. So if you're coming to my website, here's what you need to know. 1, this is who owns this website. 2, this is who owns the content that's on this website. 3, if you're purchasing anything, your refund policy and all of those purchase language is also included in there. Is included on your terms and conditions. There are various disclaimers, so especially if you are in the financial, money, mindset, health and wellness space, you do want to make sure that you're very clearly disclaiming, I'm not providing you with medical advice, mental health advice, legal advice, financial advice, investment advice. None of that is being provided to you on this website. And that way you can, protect yourself from any liability that might come up. And then your privacy policy, you really want to make sure that that's on your website, because that is required by law if you are collecting any information on your website. And so that includes even an email. If you are grabbing email addresses for your lead magnet, or if people are able to purchase anything from your website, whether it's a digital product or a physical product, you want to make sure that the privacy policy is there on your website, because people have the law, the government has determined that people have the right to know what information you're collecting from them and how you are using it. And so, in that privacy policy, you'll be communicating, we're collecting this information. This is how we're storing it. This is how we're using it. If you sell information to third parties, you need to communicate that there. If you don't sell it, it's always good to let your people know, we don't sell your information to any third parties. And so you want to make sure you let them know, we'll only use your information to process your orders. So, when you put your payment information in, when you provide your mailing or billing address, we're only using that to process any purchases that you make on our website. And so just communicating to them how it is you collect their data and how you're using it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for going through all of that.
Yeah.
One or two last legal questions is talking about naming things, because I know that is really your bread and butter with trademarks and copyrights and really just like owning your business assets. So can you tell us, I guess maybe we should start off with what is the difference between a trademark and a copyright?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And I love talking about this. So let me know if I'm talking too much. But what is the difference between a trademark and a copyright? So both of them are intellectual property assets. And that means that they have value. They are assets. They're just not tangible. They're not, a physical building. They're not a vehicle. They're not anything you can actually touch, but they certainly have value. And most people have them in their businesses. And so what a copyright is, that is ownership in an original work of art or authorship. So this might be photography, videography, music, a written work. So a book, the copy on your website, maybe it is, a workbook or PDFs that you've created within your program. Maybe it is, your curriculum that you take your clients through, your methodology or your framework. All of that is a copyright asset. So the content is your copyright asset. And when you own a copyright, you have the exclusive rights to the use of it, to reproduce it, to profit off of it, to sell it, to license it to others, to repurpose it or create derivative works based on it, works that are derived from that. And so, as you can imagine, that's where a lot of the value of your business lies, right? A trademark, on the other hand, is a distinct source identifier. So it identifies the source of goods or services being sold. And so one in, the normal commercial world is Nike. Nike has a very strong trademark portfolio. They have 3 very strong trademarks that are recognizable, I want to say all over the world. The first one is their brand name, Nike. When I hear Nike, I automatically know what it is what you're talking about. I automatically know, the level of quality associated with that. And just so much is spoken about that brand and about that business just based on hearing the name. Same goes for their logo, the swoosh symbol, right? So as soon as I see that, I don't need to see Nike next to it. I just know that that's associated with Nike. And then the last trademark that they have is their slogan, which is, just do it, right? Everybody knows just do it. When I hear just do it, or I see it, I don't need to see the logo. I don't need to see Nike next to it. I know that this is associated with Nike, right? So in your business, your trademark assets might be your business name, your program name, your podcast name, your logo. Maybe it's a slogan or a tagline, the name of your signature framework or methodology, and the name of your course, the name of a digital product. Maybe it's a signature service. Maybe it's a hashtag that you use in your promotional materials or, throughout your program. And so these are all trademark assets. And the key here is that they are distinct. So they're not like what everybody else uses to describe, if it is, I'm launching a program and it is, but I know with you, Tess, your, on your website, at least I think if I remember correctly, it says business and mindset coaching for money coaches. And so if I were to create a program that is based on that, the content is all about that. And I called it the business and mindset coaching course, or program, that's very generic. We want to stay away from a generic name. Wander Wealthy is a really great name because it is distinct. And the way you can tell whether or not it's distinct or generic is, does everybody else that provides similar services need to use these words, this language to describe their services? If the answer is yes, for example, everybody else that provides money and business and mindset coaching needs to use the words business and mindset coaching, then yeah, it's generic. But not everybody that provides those services needs to use Wander Wealthy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So when you take basically the content is the copyright and like the name, the distinguishing factor is the trademark. What do you do to make those like legally legit? Are there different processes for each?
Yes. Yeah. So with the copyright, with your content, as soon as it's created, you own the rights to it. And so what is important to note here is if you have someone creating content for you, if you've got a copywriter or if you've got a photographer or, someone creating music, if that's your thing, if you've got someone, if I'm writing out some points and content and then I'm sending it to, a content creator I work with, and they're creating our workbook and our, the program, maybe it's slides for a presentation. The creator of the work is who owns the rights in it. And so if they are an independent contractor, the owner, even if you paid them to do it, you don't automatically own it just because you paid them to do it. They still own the rights in it. So you want to make sure that anytime you are entering into that kind of a content creation relationship, that in the contract, one, make sure there's a contract. Do not go off of a proposal or just an email, please, because trust me, I've seen a lot of situations that could have been avoided. They could have been avoided if they had used a contract. But two, you want to make sure that in that contract, it clearly states that they expressly transfer ownership of everything they create to you. So what I want for you to start thinking about in your business and to have this shift in perspective as viewing everything you create or have created in your business as an asset. And those assets need to be owned by you. And if they're not, then they're owned by somebody else. And that means they're under the control of somebody else. So what that other person that controls them can do is they can turn around and license it to somebody else. They can take those photos and they can put them up on a stock photo website and profit off of them. They can take your content and turn around and license it or sell it to somebody else that also provides similar services as you. And we want to avoid that, right? We want to avoid that type of a situation. We want to maintain control and ownership over all of our assets because that's really our businesses. Our online-based businesses, they are so different than the traditional business, the brick and mortar that has equipment or inventory or all of those things. That's where their value would be derived from, where those physical assets. The value of our businesses are derived from intellectual property, our trademark assets, our copyright assets. And so it's really important that we take the steps necessary to maintain ownership and control over those assets. So that's one with the copyright. You can always register your copyright as well with the USPTO, with the US Copyright Office, AKA the Library of Congress. You can register your copyrights there. And pretty much what that does is it provides you with the official certificate that says on this date, on January 1, 2021, this person had created this content or this piece of copyrighted works, and this is the evidence of it. Otherwise, if you don't have a registration and somebody else, infringes on that content, takes that content and publishes it on their own, how can you really prove that you had created it on this date or on a prior date? It's very difficult to do so.
Cool. I have so many questions, but we don't have time. Let's move on to the trademark. We're going to have to have you come back.
Anytime. I would love to. This has been great. So with trademarks, how you can protect your trademarks. So one, you want to make sure that you are conducting a trademark clearance search. Okay. So if you have, let's say, for example, I want to create a new program I'm going to name it XYZ. Before I begin to invest all of my resources in, building out that brand, building out all of the collateral, the branding, the materials, the promotional stuff, shouting it from the rooftops, letting everyone know my program is named XYZ. This is who it's for and all that good stuff. Before you do all of that and make all of that investment, you want to make sure that you are not infringing on anybody else by using that name, right? Because that can be a problem. If you begin using a name and somebody else already owns the rights to it, or they've already begun using it, they already have the trademark registration to it, you could find yourself either facing an infringement lawsuit, which no, thank you. Don't want to do that. Or have to go through a forced rebranding, which also no, thank you. I also would like to avoid that if possible, right? So the way to avoid that is by doing a trademark clearance search. If I can give like a quick and dirty little preliminary trademark clearance search, like step one. Yeah. So step one is do a search on Google. If you have your name, like I said, XYZ, go on Google, search XYZ, see what comes up, and then do another search, XYZ, and then include some industry terms, something related to your services that you provide. If you coach on something in particular, include some of those, generic terms that are related that might come up in a search, right? Mm-hmm. And so then see what comes up. If anything is similar to, if somebody is already using that trademark, that XYZ in connection with similar goods or services, anything related, that's a red flag. I also want to note that if it's not the exact same as your trademark, but it's very similar. So I hope it's okay that I'm using you as an example, Tess.
Go for it.
Okay, awesome. So Wander Wealthy, if somebody's out here using Wander Wealthier, and I want to use Wander Wealthy, but somebody's already using Wander Wealthier, that's a problem because the standard is not an identical match. The legal standard is a likelihood of confusion, and a likelihood of confusion can happen even if the trademarks are slightly similar, or excuse me, slightly similar, yes, but like slightly dissimilar. So you want to do that search on Google. If nothing comes up, that's a great first sign. You want to check on social media after that. Go on social media and see, if anybody is using it on social media. Don't forget to check the hashtags. And then the third thing you want to do is go to the USPTO website. So uspto.gov, that's the US Patent and Trademark Office's website. It's a federal agency that handles all these shenanigans. And you want to click on Tess. That's funny enough. You want to click on Tess, TESS. Yes.
I have seen that.
Okay. Yes. So the Trademark Electronic Search Service, I believe, or search system. And you'll want to do a search for your trademark, the one that you want to use, and also search for variations. So change up the spelling, change up the order, change up the punctuation and the spacing. And what you want to look for when you click on a trademark in their database, you'll see a goods and services description. That goods and services description is what you want to pay attention to, because if it is similar goods or services as to what it is you intend to use your trademark in connection with, you want to steer clear from it. And so, yeah, that's a quick little a preliminary trademark clearance search you'll want to do. And then as far as how to protect your trademarks, you do want to ultimately secure ownership of your trademark. We provide that as a service within my law firm. We're also launching a course actually next week on coachesandcompany.com that's like in depth on all of this trademark stuff. So how to create a strong trademark, and then how to go through a trademark clearance search yourself, and then how to navigate the trademark application process and the examination process, and then ultimately secure registration. So when you have registration, you have the exclusive rights to the use of that trademark across the United States. So federally, if you are in New York, if someone in Texas starts using your trademark, you're in a position to enforce your rights. If you're in California and somebody in Florida starts using your trademark, you are in a position to enforce those rights. So with the digital landscape, our clients are not just in our city or our state, right? They're all over the country, and we market on a national basis. You could never leave your state and still build a national brand, right? And I think that's the reality for a lot of people. So it's just to emphasize the importance of securing those rights.
Yes. Now you got us all gonna go search our names and really pull our hair out, but it's so awesome that you're coming out with that course, because I do know that working one-on-one with an attorney, it can be expensive for the trademark registration. So I love that you're helping make it a little more
Yeah.
doable for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure. And I mean, that's really our mission, is
Yeah.
it's great for those that are able to, delegate that and outsource that process.
Mm-hmm.
Our packages, they start at 2,500, and
Mm-hmm.
it's actually a very affordable and reasonable rate compared to
Yeah.
what the larger law firms offer. But again, I recognize that's still, for many people, that's still not doable depending on the season of business that they're in. And so hopefully our course will be able to bridge that gap.
Yeah. There's the people who have the money and no time, and then there's the people who have lots of time and no money.
Exactly.
So.
That is exactly it. And if I may say also is, I really want to encourage those that are listening to, if you haven't yet, begin the process for your trademark, whether that's through a lawyer or on your own. Because what I'm seeing in the online space is people are creating these incredible brands. They're investing in growing their brand, the brand awareness, and developing a really strong, sense of an identity of quality and reliability and authority, but they don't protect their brand through their trademark registration until they are seeing somebody else create something similar, or somebody
Mm,
else trying to copy or steal their brand. That is the motivation to begin the process. And it's really such a shame, in my opinion, to see that that's what is necessary for you to become motivated and for you to see the value of your brand, because
mm-hmm.
you're creating so much more than just a website or just a program. You have the ability to create a legacy, and you know your fingerprint that you leave in the world, right? This is
Yeah.
you. And if you don't, it's just, it can so easily be lost if you don't prioritize that. So I really want to encourage everyone to take that seriously and really take your business seriously, because it is worthy of protection and you are worthy of protection. And you're the only one that can do anything about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Yasmine, for taking us through the nitty gritty and sharing your expertise with us there. I'd love to just do one or two questions on the money round, and then we're going to get into the quick and dirty Q&A. So
Alrighty.
let's talk money. I'd love to know what's one of the best investments that you've made in your business?
One of the best investments I've made in my business is my team. 100, 1,000, 1,000,000%. Like that is, and I wish I would have done it sooner. In my law firm for a long time, it was just me and an assistant,
Mm-hmm.
and all of the content and the marketing and I mean, she would help me with administrative stuff and calendaring, but like all the legal stuff, I was handling it all. And I really was the bottleneck, like
Mm-hmm.
major bottleneck syndrome. Is that a thing? I feel like
It should
it
be.
is. Yeah, it's already a thing. We just haven't titled it that.
That's the name
That's
now.
the name. Yeah, is bottleneck syndrome. And I had a bad case of it, or my
Mm-hmm.
business did rather. And so, yeah, once I took the leap and began to hire team members to help with, the content creation, and I hired legal staff, a paralegal, and began to do all of those things. I mean, my business just blew up. And so thankfully, I learned that lesson before Coaches and Company,
Mm-hmm.
because going into Coaches and Company, that was my number one priority. Is I have got to have a solid team in place, and I need to have someone to support me in all areas of this business. And so now, I play a role in the content creation. I play a role in, our visuals. I play a role in, I still do all of the product development for the most part, just
Mm-hmm.
because it's still early on, in our product development journey.
Mm-hmm.
But I have support still in that,
Yeah.
right? So it's a game changer, and it has allowed me to really step into my role as the visionary for the business, and to keep us on track in terms of what is the greater vision and what do we need to do to get there.
Fantastic. What's your next big investment, either for your business or personally?
Oh, okay. So what is my next big investment? So in 2021, my husband and I plan to buy a house.
Woohoo!
Yes, super excited. And so my son, he's a year and a half now. And so he needs more space. Like
Yeah.
he definitely needs more space. And so we need a bigger space. And so I'm really, really excited about that. And we're first time home buyers. And so it's definitely a learning experience. But yeah, and I think for the business, on the business side, what our next big investment is, I intend to hire a creative director for 2021. So
So
I think that's
exciting.
going to be, yeah, very exciting. So I think that's going to be our next big investment.
Perfect. Well, good luck in 2021. When this
Thank
comes out, it
you.
will be 2021. So you'll be well on
Yes.
your way.
Oh, yes. I'm so excited.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing with us your just money details. We're going to go into the
Yeah.
quick and dirty Q&A round. These are just a couple fast-paced questions to wrap up the show. Are you
Cool.
ready?
I am, I think.
All right. Yes, I did not tell you what these questions were.
You sure didn't.
The first one is my favorite. I want to know something totally random. It cannot be about legal stuff or business stuff. It's got to be super random that, like, just something you can't stop thinking about lately.
Oh, something I can't stop thinking about? Okay, so I am in dire need of a retreat. I need to go
Ooh,
on a retreat. We
don't we
went to,
all?
oh my gosh, right? I feel like this is something we need to talk about more, and it needs to be normalized that we as business persons, for me as a mother and a wife,
Mhm.
I'm like, I need to get away from you guys. I love you guys, but I need some time by myself because I rarely get time by myself. And I feel that, we went to San Diego last month and it
Mhm.
was fun. We went, the three of us, my husband, my son, and I. Um, but it definitely was not a retreat. It was, I guess you could say, a vacation, but with a child, it's more like a field trip,
Yes.
so I kind of felt like I was on the whole time. I didn't really have a chance to unplug, step back, really let my mind and my system settle, and that way I could
Mhm.
refocus and reflect as needed. So yeah, I cannot get a retreat off my mind, and I think I might take a mini one this weekend.
Where would you go on your retreat?
Oh, if I could travel
If
right
things were
now,
like
yeah, I
normal,
was gonna
yeah.
say yes. I think I would go to the mountains of Colorado.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
What's something that you like to do to step away from your business, just like in the everyday?
Oh, in the everyday, I love to just organize in my home and
Mm,
declutter. Like that really helps. I feel like it clears my energy and clears my mind, and my environment is very important to me. And
yes.
so, yeah, I love to declutter and organize.
Lovely. Your husband probably very much appreciates that that's what you do to unwind.
Yes. Yeah, right.
What is your favorite account to follow on social media?
Truth be told, I spend little to no time scrolling my feed on social media. Just because I am easily overwhelmed by content.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, nothing is really coming to mind. Um, yeah, I can't think of anything. If I'm going to
A
scroll my
social
feed,
detox.
yeah, I'm like on an ongoing social detox. And if I do feel I want to scroll my feed, I switch out of my business account and I go to my personal account so I can see what like people in my personal life are up to.
I do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I have a Finsta. I'm like the 15-year
Yeah.
olds now.
Yes, yeah. And that was my first Instagram page. I've had it for like, I don't know, 8 years now or something, my
Uh-huh.
personal account. So all of my personal, like my social circle is on there. So yeah, if I'm going to scroll, it's going to be there.
Perfect. Yasmine, thank you so much for joining us today. I would love for you to just tell us where we can find you, how we can buy all of your things so that we can be legally protected and just stay in touch.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Tess. This has been lovely. You can find me on Instagram. So my name is a little bit long. I imagine that Tess is gonna kindly include it in the show notes.
I sure will.
Yes, but it's Yasmine spelled with a Y. It's like Jasmine, but with a Y. Salem Hamdan, Hamdan. You can find me on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I am not on TikTok, but maybe in 2021 I will get on there. Are you on TikTok? That's the question. Yeah, I'm
No.
not either.
I have a Finsta. I
Yeah.
just got a Finsta. So.
Yeah, I'm not on TikTok, and I'm convinced that it is actual mind control.
Yeah.
But I guess that might be a conversation for another day too.
Yes.
But my website, my law firm website is yshfirm.com. That's the YSH law firm website. We provide legal services there to our clients. And then where you can buy all of the legal goodies is coachesandcompany.com, and connect with us on Instagram too, because the party does not stop over there. So I look forward to connecting with you.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And that's a wrap. Episode 205 with Yasmine Salem Hamdan. If you loved this episode, we would love to hear from you. Go ahead and share your notes or share a screenshot of you listening to the episode, whatever you want, over on Instagram. I am at Tess_Wicks, and you can tag Yasmine at Yasmine Salem Hamdan or her other handle at Coaches and Company. And if you want to get at the show notes of this week's episode, which I'm sure has lots of details about the things that we talked about, you can head to wanderwealthypodcast.com/podcast/episode 205. And y'all, I am investing in Yasmine's trademark course because it is something that I need to do. We talked about it after we recorded this episode, how important it is to protect my brand. And even if you're not ready for the trademark yet, especially if you're really just getting started, take her advice. Go look up, the names and the brand that you have an idea of, see if it's already taken, just so that you make sure that you don't, I don't want to say waste any time, but spend all this time, energy, effort, and even money building something that has already been called for. You know what I mean? So go check her out. Check out the show notes. I'm linking up all of her details inside of the show notes, and you can grab that. And that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, I hope you wander wealthy.